Welcome to another episode of Growing Ecommerce, brought to you by Smarter Ecommerce, also known as SMEC. I am one of your hosts, Mike Ryan, and with me is
Chris,
the other one of our hosts.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Chris. So let's jump right into it today, shall we?
Great topics. I think two.
Yeah, that's right. We want to talk about, last episode, we were talking about how PMax is not a black box anymore. And we want to present to you some of the fruits of that transparency so Google can regret.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was about to say. So for the ones who missed the last episode, we were very positive about Google being very open with their data. And today we will be evil again.
Yes.
Let's make sure we don't hold back.
No.
But the numbers are really, what is the right word? Concerning?
Concerning is the word, yeah.
Right word?
Yeah. And they're not surprised. They're not, yeah, that's good. They're not surprising at all, unfortunately. I mean, because network, channel reporting, it's also elsewhere in Google Ads called network reporting. They're the same thing as each other. And network reporting has been available for a long time in Google Ads. And we'll get there. Getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But one of those networks that I'm not the biggest fan of is Search Partner Network,
Let me, I have to ask you there. You are not the biggest fan. What does that mean?
The premise of Search...
I don't want to push the button.
No, it's fine. The premise of Search Partner Network is fine. It's great, actually. The idea is that Google's not the only search engine in the world. There's all these different publishers and other websites that have built-in search engines. And if a commercially relevant search is made, if there's intent, then your text ads or shopping ads can appear on these other properties. eBay was one of the big hallmark search partners at the start. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
The idea is great.
Yeah. The problem is that Google doesn't really do a lot of quality control or gatekeeping on this. It's this philosophy, the same problem with Google Display Network, that more is more.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's even an official number about how many search partners there are, but it's going to be millions. Yeah.
And we talked about that. I think this is one of the reasons why it feels like it's not under control anymore, because maybe it's even too big for Google.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that back with that CSAM scandal last year. Google, Google didn't even know everything that was in there, I think. Yeah. And that's concerning. And so
Search Partner Network is the thing we're talking about today. And again, shout out to Google. The reason why we can talk about that is because they really open up the black box.
Yes, exactly.
So all good here, but the numbers we want to talk about today, by the way, great job again, Mike, to dig into this. They are concerning. And one thing which I would like to put on front street is you have probably similar issues also with Microsoft ads. Just saying here.
Yeah.
That the numbers are not that relevant for a lot of clients. That's why we focus on Google right now. But the Search Partner Network idea is in general a great one, but the big platforms struggle to really ensure quality.
Yes.
It's not just the Google thing.
No, it's also, we'll see this topic rising more and more with Amazon and their kind of their offsite. This is a problem within digital marketing at large.
But Google is by far the biggest player, and that's why we talk about them. And maybe, Mike, we show this live, all right?
First, but I just want to lead into this real quick. I'm first going to put up data that's showing the development of this reporting over time. Yeah. So what we did is we pulled the network data for hundreds of advertisers for all of 2025 and even through January 2026. And until May of 2025, that was the classic black box era. And the stuff was all categorized as cross-network. And we've already known that shopping, for e-commerce anyways, shopping and search, so Google Search Network is the biggest part of PMax. But now we can really see Google validated numbers of the rest. And we find out that these scripts and things like that were popular a couple of years ago, they were actually really quite inaccurate, unfortunately. But Google has given us accurate data. So beginning in June, that data is available back to June, and we've pulled it. So we can see the black box open up. And, excluding Google Search Network, it's not too surprising, but it's mostly display and YouTube after that. That's most of what PMax is.
Which is fine, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's I've got the numbers here. It's 49%. This is the median amount of impressions, and it's like excluding Google Search Network, it's 49% YouTube. So it's half YouTube.
It's half YouTube,
so this has been very big for YouTube sales, of course.
Yes. And by the way, no surprise here, because it's clearly one of the strategic focal points of Google. YouTube is the channel where they want to tap into classic TV ad budgets. It's for Google the next growth story.
Yeah.
So for me, not surprising at all. And by the way, I love YouTube. I love YouTube, and I think it's working. All right.
Yeah.
So all good here. All good.
Absolutely. Then we've got 17% Google Display Network. A lot of remarketing on there. 17% Search Partner Network.
Yes.
That's where I started
going to talk about that.
Get triggered. 7% Discover, and currently a very small amount. 11% Maps. That gets a bit skewed. Yeah, but for multi-channel or omni-channel retailers, hybrid online offline, Maps is quite big on PMax.
And demand gen plays massive mainstream, right? You can really do cool things.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to you can target that through the demand gen as well. And then, I don't know if I didn't say something yet, but a 0.5% Gmail. So very little Gmail activity that we're seeing, but it's great that this data is available, and we can also see the performance of each of these. But I have a special request to Google.
What is it?
Let us opt out of Search Partner Network in PMax. And that's where I want to
+1.
Yeah.
+1.
I think it's reasonable,
The data we are going to talk about in a second will make it very, very reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, before we jump into the data, what is what do you think is the reason why? Because it's not the first time we talked about this. So it's not the first time we talk about this with Google. What do you think is the reason why Google is hesitant to give us the opportunity or the possibility to opt out? Is it as straightforward as it might be, that it's just revenue impacting?
I don't know. I mean, because while Search Partner Network generates a sizable amount of impressions, the saving grace of Search Partner Network, because it's both the problem and the solution in a way. The intent is so low.
Oh, yes.
That's what causes the performance to be really bad. But it's so low that it also doesn't generate that many clicks and that many costs. And so there's an extent to which you can almost just overlook it.
Yeah.
But it's just bloat for a lot of advertisers. And why Google doesn't let an opt out, I think this is the one thing that has not changed about PMax so far. A lot of things have changed, but the core identity of PMax is that it is the one-stop shop where you buy all of Google inventory. And I really think they want to hold the line there, because if they offer an opt-out for one,
what's next?
Then and we see demand gen has a very different product philosophy. It's a checkbox. You choose what you want to appear in, and they could easily implement that for PMax, but that's not what they want to do.
That's where my question is coming from, because Google is already offering it, right? I mean, when we talk about the Google Power Pack, the IMAX, the search demand gen, and PMax, and there is one campaign tab in there where you have full control with this demand gen.
Yeah.
Right? You can literally say, I want to be there, but I don't want to be there. And PMax, you can't. And that's why I'm asking, and I think it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Do they want to open the floodgates?
Yeah.
You still, I mean, the promise you made last year, you keep fighting for that, right?
Yeah.
To all our fans out there, if we have some, I met one at the convention.
Cool.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
This one fan. This one fan I met him. No, just kidding. To all the listeners, if there will be one day the possibility to opt out, send Mike flowers, because he was one of the main reasons why this is going to happen.
I'm making, I wanted to do this in 2025, but I just didn't have the chance. But I'm making my most concerted effort now to do that. I'm going to be writing a little op-ed piece for Search Engine Land. I don't know if that'll be live or not by the time this airs. That's why I'm preparing this data. And
it's a noble fund.
Yes.
It will help everyone.
Yes.
Why? Because?
Well, for some people, Search Partner works, but it's a decision that you should be able to make.
Yeah.
And you can't. Now,
let's talk about numbers.
So first, I want to talk, because I tried to be fair here.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I want to say. So what I did is I only looked at campaigns that had 30 or more monthly conversions. That's enough for smart bidding to learn.
Yeah.
It should give a fighting chance here. That's a whole other topic, is the interplay of Google's bidding and Search Partner Network, but they've been trying to make improvements. They had a few updates last year. They are working on making Search Partner Network more performant and a bit better, but right now it's not showing. The other thing that I did, I'll put this chart on screen, and I really like to show the range of outcomes, so that you see that, because if I just tell you like the average or something like that, it makes a singular monolithic number about this. And there are people who have better or worse outcomes. I want to highlight that. And I've also, when I'm looking at that average, to try to create a number to summarize these, I'm working with something called a trimmed mean.
Mm-hmm.
And what this does is it excludes the bottom and top outliers. So, it's a very simple but robust number.
And a fair approach.
So I've really tried to be fair here, and unfortunately the results are still garbage.
Yes.
Which is the not nice part. But just to run through these, the trimmed mean of the following KPIs. So this is Search Partner Network compared to its parent campaign.
Mm-hmm. Which are basically all the rest of PMax campaign.
Yeah, this was an initial sample. This is a sample of over 1,500 PMax campaigns that met the quality criteria.
Got it.
So yeah, that's CTR is 40% lower. Conversion rate is 63% lower. CPCs are 14% lower in Google's defense. These clicks don't cost as much, but that's not proportional. It's not proportional.
Yes.
The cost per acquisition or per conversion is 73% higher in the trimmed mean case, and the ROAS is same number almost as conversion rate. It's to a decimal point. It's 63% lower, and so.
The greatest of all time KPI.
Yeah, we talked about that last time, right?
We talked about that last time. Okay, so across the board, a horrific thing.
Yeah, and there are some advertisers for whom this works, and the only saving grace again is that it's not spending that much money. Typically. Yeah.
But my takeaways are, so yes, it might work for some. But having again, and we talked about this the last time, having this data available now, right? But I can't do anything about it. It feels like torture, right? You have these numbers available, and you basically can't do it.
You can exclude single placements, but you can't. There are limits, and there are
limits in how many placements you want to exclude. So
exactly.
For me, this is just. I mean, Google, if you're listening, this would be. I know there are reasons for it, but and maybe we don't know all of the reasons, but this would make perfect sense, because there are retailers or clients where it's working, but for the majority it's not. And Mike, the major thing which I hold against Google here is they are now massively jumping on the train of really trying to find the incrementally most profitable next dollar revenue for you.
Yeah, we talked about that last year, right?
And this is a joke. Sorry. I mean, Google, you did a lot of things perfectly well, but this doesn't make sense at all, because if they're really serious about the incrementality of your return on investment, for instance, I mean, how this doesn't fit.
Yeah, that that they wrote articles about this. It's in their help center. They really want to. They were hesitant to disclose this data because of things like this. But they're saying like you have to understand that at the time that conversion was bought, it was the cheapest conversion that we could buy. Well, don't buy that conversion.
No.
The intent is too low. There's a limit to that, And in these campaigns, by the way, I mean, if I would compare this to, like what I see is that these campaigns, and we know this about PMax, they're typically meeting the ROAS target or even exceeding it. And it's just this weird bloat. It's dragging down the average, and I don't think that those conversions paid off. I mean, I know they don't.
That's the thing. It's not about thinking anymore. Based on the data we have, they are not. And by the way, it's so significant. And like I said, this is certainly contradicting what Google promises to do. And again, it's not that big of a it's not that big of a portion of your whole ad spend. I get it, but still, it's costing me money for no reason. Why would I spend in this? I mean, it's really crazy. It's horrific, and I mean, Google has to do something about it. And what you said in the beginning, that it's not even that big of a chunk in terms of revenue for Google because not that many clicks happen.
Yeah, it's something, but
the risk reward ratio is not there for Google.
No, they
talked about the scam.
They've had brand safety after brand safety scandal.
For what then, right? And it's dragging performance.
If I go into that placement report, I mean, we have a script that helps evaluate your placements. And
let's show this slide again. We love to show slides.
Yeah, let's go for it. I mean, because like some of these websites, I don't believe that there's any human traffic on there. And this is another thing I throw this chart up as well, but I looked at the invalid traffic rate per network, and there are two kinds of categories of invalid traffic. There's basically harmless bots that just crawl websites and stuff like this. Many of them are beneficial. And then there's like this kind of malicious invalid traffic. And Search Partner Network, unsurprisingly, has the highest share of malicious fraudulent clicks as well. So
serious thing. We keep you posted. Mate, I think it's great data, super interesting.
Thanks.
And you keep fighting.
I keep fighting the good
for the
fight,
good.
Yeah.
For the rest of us.
And if there's some Googler listening to this getting pissed or anything, I'm sorry, but I want people to like PMax.
Yes.
I want these objections that people can reasonably have to be resolved.
By the way, I think we want people to like Google because it's a fucking great company.
Yeah.
They do a lot of great things. And by the way, doing a lot of great things, yes, of course, there might be things which are not that good, but it's great that you bring this up, and it's worth a discussion. Let's see. I'm curious about your article.
Yes.
That will be a good one.
Definitely.
Mike, thanks a lot for that. Let's jump to actually, I think it's a big thing.
It's a pretty big one, yeah.
It's a pretty big one,
I
but
think
not that much to discuss about. Rather, a news-breaking section of this today's episode. Mike, you had a great webinar with Ginny Marvin. By the way, shout out to Ginny again for joining. I really enjoyed it. A lot of registrants. It was really great to see.
Yeah.
There was a lot of great discussions going on. But what is the big news?
Yeah.
The one single big news we got out of this.
To me, the biggest piece of news was, I asked Ginny, I said that, this was a webinar about AI Max, and I said it would give a lot of advertisers clarity if they'd understand what's happening with DSA, because you sense that there's a redundancy here.
It's the same technology.
They're very similar to each other. AI Max in some ways is superior. Others will say DSA, but whatever. Yeah. And DSA is a popular product. It's well adopted. It's probably 20% of search 20%. Costs. I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
And
20%.
So the thing is, like, it will help people decide if they're going to adopt AI Max or not.
Yes.
If they know what's going to happen here. Is AI Max going to replace it? And Ginny confirmed that DSA its time on Earth is limited. We do not have an exact date from Ginny, and I don't know, the details. Is there going to be a migration plan? I kind of assume so, or are they just going to sunset DSA? But DSA will go the way of the dinosaurs, and AI Max, therefore, is the future-proof technology for that kind of advertising. So it's a simple news update, but
I'm kind of sad here.
Yeah.
I love the analogy with the dinosaur because I think it was good for mankind that there was some extinction going on, because else we probably wouldn't have taken over. And maybe the sunset of DSA is good, and a good move for the greater good. But DSA was a great campaign type. At the end of the day, not too surprising.
No.
There are too big of a redundancy between AI Max search
and PMax as well.
PMax as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, great news. And by the way, shout out to Ginny that she was. I mean, I was super surprised that she was really. I mean, that concrete on that topic.
Yeah, there hasn't been. I mean, at least time of recording and at the time of the webinar, especially, there's been no announcement from Google about this.
Yeah.
But Ginny speaks from a position of authority.
Yes,
I think she got that this will give people clarity, and she went out there and said
love
it.
it.
So
Love it.
Thank you, Ginny.
Thank you, Ginny, and to all the listeners, DSA, there is a timeline which will end, and of course we keep you posted on what does that mean and how you can mitigate any risks whatsoever. Google
typically gives a 1-year sunset period. That depends, but
I certainly think there will be migration plans. I think it won't be that difficult because it's so similar from a technology perspective.
Yeah.
But super interesting.
Indeed.
Mike, time flies.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for spending the time with me, Chris. Thanks as well to our audience for taking the time. And as always, smart. Edit that.
Let's give it another shot.
And as always, Growing Ecommerce is brought to you by Smarter Ecommerce, also known as SMEC. So please visit us at smarter-ecommerce.com if you'd like to learn more. Otherwise, give us a follow on our podcast. Give us a recommendation to your friends, a positive review or rating. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
Handshake.
See you next time.
It was a pleasure. See you next time. Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Bye-bye.